Hello everybody and welcome to live YouTube. Hoping everybody is great and had a fantastic day. So I wanted to go live and tell you about mixing. Definitely there are some tips out there that people do not get, especially with heavy bass tracks. A lot of people just end up putting the wrong things on the master channel when it comes to music and mixing. There are various techniques of how to apply different musical elements to each track, but the most important thing is breathing, letting your music breathe. On each track, i.e., for example, we have the full mix, which is the master channel. So that's the whole entire mix. The first channel slot, we have strings. The second, we have bass. The next, we have guitar. And then we have a bass drum, claps, hi-hats and whatnot, snares on different tracks. Now for each and every single one of those tracks, there's always a different way to mix. There's no right or wrong way to mix a track, but I can't tell you, hey, this is how you mix Sorry about that. So hopefully we have sorted the problems out. So basically the best way to mix is to use EQ on each and every track. Always cut away from the mix. Always cut 30 hertz from the bottom of the track. For example, there is no point in putting a master mix over everything. You have to independently use the processes that are involved in mixing, and you must apply that to every single channel, not just the one channel, because everything's going to sound so muddy and so squished. The best way that I can work, people work differently to me. Like for example, people may, let's put it the weirdest way. Someone may make tea differently to me. Like for example, me, I would put the tea bag, put the water, then the milk afterwards. Someone may do it. You put the tea bag in and the milk, and then put the water, then put your sweetener or sugar in afterwards. That's if it's to your taste. But personally, this is what I do. I make sure that we're, all the levels are sorted, and so I can hear them. And then what I do, I mix them independently. Strings, take a cut here, filter there, filter in tracks. It can also take away a lot of the distortion sometimes, because with some samples they do seem to be distorted. So rounding them off, filtering them off, then using a transient shaper to shape the sound even more, gives it this distinctive attack that you've already sculpted. I also find that if I'm looking for robotic sounds, i.e. something digital, something bit crushed, then I use something which is called a decimator. A decimator is a really good thing to use when you want really bit crushed sounds. Also, when you make your own sounds, I have my own sound bank for Silent One, which is a plugin. You can use the filter cutoff on the attack then add a decimator with the resonance cranked up, cut off, cut down, and create a marvelous yay sort of like sound, cranking up the decimator or bit crusher. But that is as far as I say for sound design. But the most important part is making your mix breathe. That's the most important part of mixing. Making sure that your mix is clear and polished. You don't want to raise the highest part of the EQ. Oh yeah, that's going to sound really, really good. Because really you have to listen and monitor your sounds, i.e. check the whole mix and not even finalize it yet. See what you think it sounds like, i.e. on your own mixer setup, on normal speakers, on monitoring speakers, car speakers, a hi-fi, a cinematic home hi-fi. All depends on what mix you're going for. Even if it's for a 5.1, you may have to check every single one of those channels to see what's distorting and what's not, and what way you can make things better to improve your overall mix. It's not all about, you know, fluctuating dynamics, because you don't want in the middle of a song a certain peak and trough to go from here, you know, your whole song goes there, and then 2 minutes in you have and this big trough somewhere, and then all of a sudden it goes back down to that level. You don't want it to peak up and down, where it goes normal level, peak up, then down, peak up, you know, everywhere, because it really destroys the sonic quality and density of the track. So when you're using compressors, use them scarcely every single time. Always make sure that you use your compressors EQs to the best of it, you know, sonically use it to the best of your knowledge of how to use these EQs compressors, and make sure that you're also adding a tack to the overall sound if you're looking for that certain bite to come back. But make sure that you put the EQ before compressor, because you don't want to compress the EQ. You want the EQ to be compressed over the other sound. So in a mixer track, do you have compressor then EQ? That means that that compressor is then compressing the EQ. You want it the other way round. EQ first, then compressor after. But it's all about experimenting. You have to look in that signal chain how you want that sound to sound. Reverbs are especially useful for spatial sounds. You know, obviously with a reverb, you are therefore making the sound a lot more denser than what it actually is. It spreads the sound out. But then make sure that you EQ before the reverb so that then it doesn't distort. So you're just looking at the chain of effects and thinking exactly where you want it to be. And that is very important. I must stress that. You must put everything where it should be. It's all about taking your time, knowing where things go. I have been a sound designer for so many years and have created a lot of sounds that you hear on very, very big tracks. Today I've worked with a lot of mix engineers. I know a few people who run websites who have been working with Korgs and also Roland as well. So these people have done what I do. These people can do it better than what I can do it. But with music and mixing, it's all about trial and error. And if you want your mixer to sound good, make sure that you put the right things in the right places. It's all about time. You don't want your sounds to sound too... Do you want them to sound muddy and thick? Hey, you know, you want a guitar to sound really like distorted? Hey, put some distortion on it. But then also compress after the distortion, because it's going to sound so bad. Make sure that you add the transient back into a compressed signal, so therefore your levels aren't going down. Also, with sounds like guitars, you can also put the attack up a little bit, give a little bit of leeway to the sound. Synth sounds like really buzzy saws and things like that, you can use chorus to thicken the overall sound. But then also you do get, with the added chorus effects, very muddy bottom end. So you need to cut off that muddy bottom end. Also, if possible, if you're looking for a certain effect, you can use like something like Photo, which is payware, but basically what happens to that sound is you can create a user low frequency oscillator. You'd have to learn about low frequency oscillators online, and it cuts the sound down like this. So it's called sidechaining. It opens and closes the sound. So to get rid of that bottom end which is not needed, because there's other tracks that need to be freed up to use the overall sound palette, the overall sonic tonality of the whole track, which you do not want to lose, you need to cut the bottom end by 30, maybe 50, maybe 100. All depends on how much room there is left in that field, because every single frequency has a tonality, or what's measured in hertz. Sorry about that. Hertz and kilohertz. Hertz is the lower end frequency, the real low, deep sound. That's where that is held. Then the real highs are what you hear at 14, 16 kilohertz. But we must look after our ears. Also, with these analog type of like synth sounds, it's always best to add a little touch of top end EQ around, say, 14 to 15 kilohertz. Bass, on the other hand, always use a low cut on the bass. If there is certain frequencies that you do not need in the bass sound, you can always use a filter, a low pass filter, to cut out the certain frequencies that are not needed. at the higher frequency, these frequencies can be heard. Roll them off so you can only hear these sounds. Also, you may add a compressor or whatever to that sound. But I just wanted to show you guys, you know, for